Hello, and welcome once again to another packed edition of the Lawo Lounge. Your opportunity to sit back, relax, and be entertained and educated by your Lawo friends. Firstly, I want to thank all of you for the kind words from last week's show. It was really amazing to see we had a global audience from Colombia to Brazil, UK to Germany, and from Singapore all the way to Australia. Now, as we are live again, feel free to say hi or ask questions via our chat window. Coming up, our radio team have been talking with some of the customers about how they have been distancing their radio production in these difficult times. We also go on the road to a local TV station in Belgium, and in our section Introducing, we will tell you about the latest features of the Power Core, Lawo's super audio node. Also, don't forget, at the end of the show is your chance to win some Lawo giveaways in our 50 years quiz. Congratulations to those of you who correctly answered last week's question, which was, in which year did Lawo introduce its first video product? Believe it or not, it was 2012 at IBC with the launch of our vPro 8 product. Did you get it right? Lawo swag is on its way to the winners shortly. Now, back to today's show. Our Meet and Greet series continues as we introduce you to more faces of the Lawo team. This time, it is the turn of Dominic Litfin, a technical product manager from our media infrastructure team. Hi, Dominic.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, thanks for chatting with me today.
Sure.
So, I come to your role in a minute, but tell me, there's a number of Litfins in the Lawo company. So tell me a little bit about this family connection.
Yeah, that's right. So actually, both my parents work at Lawo. So I've known the company and what they do from a very young age. And when I went to university, I did some freelance jobs for them, mainly around the global events that we do. And when I wrote my thesis, I decided to do this in cooperation with Lawo, which they kindly offered to do. And afterwards, when it was done, they offered me a job, and now here I am.
So, mother, father, son, all at the company. It can't be too bad, huh?
No, definitely not.
Oh, now you're one of the technical product managers.
Yeah.
What's the most enjoyable things about your role?
Well, I think first of all, I get to work in a great team in the media infrastructure product line. And in product management in general, you get to create products and evolve them. And in that process, you talk to a lot of different line organizations within the company, for example, to sales, to support, but also to our customers, and listening to their needs and translating those into product features, basically. And as a technical product manager, I also get to interface with R&D a lot, and every day work with some cool cutting edge technology that I think translates or changes the workflows of our customers and also how they work in general. And to see that's pretty cool and enjoyable.
Cool. Now, music and sport seem to be key traits of many of the staff who work at Lawo. So tell me, which one are you, sport or music?
So if I have to decide, I think nowadays I fall more into the sports category. I like riding my road bike for extended periods of time on the weekends, for example, and that's just something I really enjoy, getting out and exploring the area.
What's the longest bike ride you've done?
The longest ride would be something around 140 kilometers.
Oh my word. Just like Sam from last week, you're making me feel tired just thinking about it.
Sorry about that.
So thanks, Dominic, for talking with me today.
Sure, no worries.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.
Ciao.
This week, we are putting radio in focus as we again look at how Lawo solutions have helped support the recent broadcast challenges brought on by COVID-19. Remote production is a term we hear more typically related to TV production, but actually it is just as relevant for radio as well. Johan Bochwist, our Senior Product Manager for Radio, has been talking this week to some of our customers about how they have managed to remain on air during these difficult times. So, good morning, Johan.
Thank you, Jamie, and again, welcome to this online session. My name is Johan Bochwist, and I'm the Product Manager for Radio here at Lawo. For today, I've invited two broadcasters and Lawo customers from different parts of the world. We will hear the story from the NPR station KQAD, located in San Francisco, and the public broadcaster Swedish Radio, on how they use our products in order to stay safe and on air during the current situation with COVID-19 lockdowns and with no or limited access to the broadcast facilities. During the call, we will have a Q&A chat open, and the radio team is ready to answer your questions and feedback during the session. Now, I'm super excited to learn more about these solutions, so I would like to hand over to my colleague Herbert Lemke, Key Account Manager in North America. Hello, Herbert and Toronto.
Thank you, Johan, and welcome from Toronto. I'm pleased to welcome our special guest from KQED, San Francisco, Paul Lencourt, Media Operations Manager.
Hello, Herbert. Thanks for having me.
And Jonathan Blakely, Executive Director, Radio Programming.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Before we drill deeper, could you give us a bit of background about KQED? I think you maybe Paul, you have a deep insight about its humble beginnings and where it is today.
Well, it began in the middle of the last century. In 1953 was when the TV station KQED first went on the air. KQED is a combined television and radio. 1969 was the first time that KQED FM broadcast in San Francisco. It was in the early days of what was to become national public radio, and the founders of KQED were instrumental in the creation of that nationwide network here in the United States of public radio stations.
What are the current channels, how you distribute your media today?
Well, just sticking with radio for a second, our primary transmitter is here in the San Francisco area, where we broadcast throughout the Northern California, the Bay Area specifically. We have two transmitters. The second transmitter, a lower power transmitter, broadcasts to the eastern fringe of our listening area and parts of Sacramento. So we do cover a big chunk of Northern California, and we do have HD signals to boot.
I think it's fair to say also we've taken advantage of a lot of the opportunities for streaming and digital distribution online, especially in the past several years. So, we stream our radio service out on our website as well, and we have a number of podcast productions and a fairly robust offering of podcasts that we make available as well, produced at KQED.
And I'm sure to add that we're also sending some of our programs to the network, to the NPR's network via satellite.
It's just something I wanted to ask. So I've heard that KQED stations are kind of the most listened to and watched public broadcaster in the nation, not just the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a widely distributed program, probably through the NPR network or the PBS network. How many people would you say listen and watch to KQED on an average day?
Well, I can tell you weekly for sure. Weekly, we have about between, if you count all of our reach, up to 1 million, but right around 800,000 listeners per week on the radio. That does make us the most listened to public radio station in the country. We're either number one or number two in this market. We're doing pretty well.
How does a current broadcast day look at KQED? Not today, right now, but let's say a couple months back.
Well, We have a mixture of local programming and national programming from either National Public Radio, the BBC, through American Public Media, PRX, and another big player in public radio, WNYC. We have a very large news department, so our local programming is primarily news.
We are a 24/7 operation, and we do newscasts throughout the day, support a news team of about 100 people now, producers, reporters, hosts, editors. And we also, as Jonathan said, we do distribute programming statewide, as well as having our 2-hour local call-in show. And in terms of how that programming is divided up, a couple of months ago, we were working out of our Beale Street offices, studios in downtown San Francisco. So we had our radio master control and 3 production studios. And from those studios, we generated all of this programming, both taking in network sources and distributing them over our broadcast and creating that news production within our production studios.
Paul, you're just in the middle of a big studio redesign. So your main facility is under heavy construction, and you're in temporary facilities. How are you managing with this current production scenario?
As difficult as it has been, and it has been quite difficult, I'm really proud of the work that we've done, because as you're aware, we are in a temporary facility right now. So for about 2 years, we're going to be in this downtown San Francisco location while our headquarters is getting remodeled. And that move itself was a challenge to get a TV and radio broadcast and an operation of about 450 people moved across town for a couple of years while we wait to go back in was challenging enough. We needed to get a lot of people continuing to do their work and keeping our operations going with very short notice from a variety of locations. So as you can imagine, that was incredibly challenging. We continue to have a handful of people at our broadcast operation on Beale Street, including our master control operator, because that is how we broadcast. We are connected to our transmitter from that location, so that is essential. But we're down to a handful of people there on a daily basis. Our news hosts, our editors, our producers, everyone is working, and much of our operation staff are all working from home. And so this was an incredible challenge for us to offer the kind of support we needed to give and distribute over a variety of locations in the Bay Area so that we could continue our operations.
Could you give us just a little heads up what KQED is currently using as a technical backbone for mixing, routing, and networking?
So to give you an overview what KQED in our temporary location is currently like, we have 4 control rooms, essentially. 3 of them are for production control, and 1 of them is a radio master control. And then we have 2 studios that are connected to those. All of them are connected by the Lawo system. So we bring in all of our network sources that we've outlined previously, all of our remote sources in through Lawo, as well as the routing of all of our studios. And we have 6 edit booths as well in our temporary facility. All of those are connected through the Lawo system. The communication between and among those various locations is all done through Lawo, and all of the routing of sources is done through that system as well. It's all connected to our DALIT Media Asset Management System, which is the primary system in which we manage our audio assets and our scripts. So all of that is managed through that system as well. We have craft editors in each of the production studios as well. So we do any complex mixing with Pro Tools or Adobe Audition in those as well. That is the primary backbone of the production that we do at our temporary location at KQED.
Thanks, Paul. That is a good overview. Jonathan, recently you and your colleagues contacted Lawo and asked about possible ways to remotely control your main facilities. Why did you exactly require this capability, and what is the main use case that you see with this?
Sure, and that goes back to what I was just saying. If something were to happen at BEO, at our temporary facility, that would require us to completely shut down that facility for a deep cleaning, we'd have to have somewhere else to broadcast. Always, KQED has had in the works our plan to broadcast from one of our transmitter sites, as this is an earthquake zone that we're in. We've decided that we would use one of the stronger sites, Sutro Mountain, where our backup transmitter will be, for this purpose. But the only way we'd be able to broadcast is if we had some way to control the air chain. So we contacted you, Lawo, so we could have some way of controlling the air chain remotely while staying on the air flawlessly.
And what exactly, which portions of your studios did you actually need remote control access to? What is the capability basically of the remote system?
Right. So for sure, we needed another master control. There's no way we would be on the air without master control unless we had to go into automation, which we didn't want to do, particularly in the pandemic we're in right now. We, as one of the number one or number two station in the market, we're being relied on for international and local information. So we have to be there for our listeners. So we have to have master control going, and at least one of the 4 studios Paul talked about, so we'd be able to continue our live newscasts and our live talk shows.
Thanks, Jonathan. Paul, which were the technical challenges to make this possible?
Well, there are a variety of hurdles to overcome. So we wanted to duplicate as much as possible in a remote location the experience of working in our master control and working in our production for our operators, and have all of the sources of programming and audio available to them that they had available at our downtown San Francisco location. And this creates some real problems for us. We are all connected into the Lawo system, and that is where all of our programming sources are. So we needed to be networked into that system in order to be able to do in master control what we do at Beale Street. From a production point of view, we need to be able to gather all our different audio sources, which are now spread throughout the Bay Area, and be able to bring those in and to be able to do something as complex as a 2-hour call-in program fed live to our broadcast chain from a location that isn't necessarily located in our studios. So we needed to replicate that as much as possible, and that meant being networked into the Lawo system. That was critical for our communications and for our programming sources to be available, and to be connected to our media asset management system, where all of our audio and scripts reside and where our playout comes from. So getting into both of those systems was critical to any location we moved to.
Thanks, Paul. How did this work out so far? What is deployed at this stage, and how is the feedback from operators and your entire team in being ready basically for what you have created there?
Well, we've had all of the primary announcer operators roll through the remote location and give it a whirl, if you will. We have not gone on the air from Sutro yet, but they've gone there to see if it felt like home, if you will, as much as possible with the Sapphire that we've installed up at Sutro. And to this point, they are pleased generally with the Sapphire layout. It looks like master control. It generally feels like master control, and we alleviated fears of what they thought they were getting into. We tried to make that look as much like a master control as possible. And I actually tested it to make sure it was actually connected to master control. We have actually made sure it's connected to master control, and it's worked. It looks like it's working fine.
And I think there are a couple of different things to take into consideration here. As Jonathan suggests, one of them is the technical aspect. We needed to have access to our network, to the Lawo system, to our media asset management system. But the other is this happened in very short order. And if we should need to use this facility, that's going to happen again in very short order. So we want to be able to take our personnel who are used to working in one environment and be able to duplicate that as much as possible in another environment so they can walk in and begin doing the work they need to do right away. So having the Sapphire console for master control in front of the operators with all of the same sources, and to be able to remote into our media asset management system and to have it look and feel just like radio master control, with a few exceptions, is really critical to the success of this. The same with the software deployment that you helped us to create, where we have a production studio available that looks and feels just like the production studio we have in our downtown facility, so that people could begin to do the work immediately, the same work from that location, and have all the sources available to them. So that's critical to this being a success as well.
Yeah, a big part of this was buy-in from the master control announcer operators. And by keeping it as similar as possible, we achieved that.
But we essentially have two deployments at our Sutro location. One is a duplication of our radio master control, and one is a duplication of one of our production control rooms. The radio master control is a Sapphire console. It's identical to the one in our master control in downtown San Francisco. So that is connected into the Lawo system, and we have available to us there all of the sources that we would have in master control. We also needed to get into our media asset management system, our DALIT system, and we use AnyDesk to go in and get on the exact same instances of our media asset management system that are in master control. So the biggest change is that we needed to be able to monitor our signal and to be able to communicate back and forth with the talkback system. And that is a little bit different. We needed to use a Comrex access remote unit. We dial into the Comrex receiver at our downtown location, and we use that to communicate back and forth and to monitor our programming. For our production control room, we have an almost identical setup, but it is software based. So instead of the Sapphire console, we have touch screens that duplicate almost identically the Sapphire control surface. So from that, we have access to all of our sources of audio as well. We're able to do all of our talkback and communication to all of our sources. We also have our phone system up at our Sutro location as well, which is critical, particularly for our call-in programming. So that is also available to us in our software-based production control setup that we have there as well. So from that, we should be able to do all of the programming that we do in our location in downtown.
I think this was a very good summary of the setup. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, Paul and Jonathan, thank you very much for having time sharing this experience with us. I wish you all the best. I kind of hope you don't have to use it extensively, although I'm confident we have created together a pretty neat, efficient, and also economic solution to safeguard any future challenges thrown at you.
Well, thanks a lot. We really appreciate working with you, and it wasn't easy, but you guys made it as simple as it possibly could be, and the end result is pretty good.
Yes, thank you so much for everything, and we appreciate the time here, Herbert.
Okay, thanks Herbert, KQND, Paul and Jonathan. I really appreciate it, and I'm super impressed on how you managed to implement these new workflows and configuration in such a short time. I guess we will see more of these solutions from now and in the future. Lawo is of course supporting this, and we are happy to help in any way with our products and experience. As said earlier, if you have any questions to San Francisco or to the Lawo team behind this solution, Please use the chat or contact us in the normal way after the session. Now in the call, I have my former colleague and close friend Roger Sandholm. He's a development engineer from Swedish Radio. So tell me, Roger, isn't it so that Swedish Radio, in a way, was prepared for this scenario with audio infrastructure and tools supporting remote radio production?
Hi, Johan, and hi to the audience, I guess. So working at Swedish Radio, and we used to be colleagues, and you were also involved in parts of this project. Yes, in many ways, we were prepared for doing a lot more remote productions. It has been and it is a big goal for our CEO to get more journalists out from the radio houses and facilities. So that was definitely one of the most important things whilst developing this project together with Lawo. Our equipment are placed in a way that enables us to use most of the mixing resources in a central location, not necessarily to save money. But because of the flexibility the network gives you, and using the network as you would use a big old central mixing core, you use the network in the same way, connecting sources together. We try to make it as easy as possible to do your regular tasks that you do every day. You have a remote tablet for control, and you have your local audio interface, which would be an audio codec, for instance, to get your audio back. So the important things here is audio transport. How do you get it back? And that's the network in some way. And some locations,
like the public internet, or could it be you need a private network?
So it all depends. We have all options basically. In some locations, you're lucky enough to have leased lines, and some locations you're just using mobile cellular networks, and bonding them together will make it more stable and a bigger chance to get through. And since we're just dealing with audio, we don't need that many bits and bytes to get a basic stream home.
How do you handle the delay variations between the different networks?
I mean, most people have joined a regular phone call, right? And as long as you solve your own monitoring, and that's why we developed the local monitoring system, both in the studios, which is in control of the local monitoring, and once out on the site, you'll have the audio codecs dealing with that. And we can place non-delay critical equipment like playout.
So you always have sort of local monitoring for your sources at the remote location.
You'll never have a problem with hearing something in delay, like your own voice or something, because, as you say, local monitoring is in place. So we had some instances now where people are not feeling particularly well, or don't know their health status basically, and we just shipped them an audio codec and one of these tablets, and that they can still perform their everyday.
And the tablet is actually the user interface, correct?
Yeah. So the tablet is the user interface, and it's just control, so there's no audio in it. That also means that you can change it for something else, right? We also have web graphical user interfaces that have some limited control functionality, but like in a studio or wherever you are, your computer breaks down or starts with some updates or something, you can take something else and still continue doing your thing. But I think the separation of the elements of audio networking and control just gives you the flexibility to do
produce
most
radio,
scenarios. To produce radio. So the host will have most of their tools with them. It's, of course, when you're on remote, it might be a little bit more trickier to have guests, because you need some more IOs probably. But that's like with any other remote broadcast, you probably need a bigger audio mixer. But they still have their play out, and it's still in high quality, being played out from a central location, which also means it isn't sensitive to disturbances in the network. You're not.
Can you tell me a bit more on how you handle personal and maybe on-air and cybersecurity in this solution?
Yeah, so the personal security is of course very important. As with any other remote broadcast or outside broadcast, you need to make assessments on how it is. And today's climate for many journalists is quite harsh and could be potentially dangerous. And now that you have your whole radio station in a box, basically, it puts a lot more responsibility on the person being out. You will have a good enough security, but it needs to be easy, and I think that's what we try to focus on, but still secure. So they have their smart card, which will authenticate themselves in the tablets and give them access to stuff.
So without the smart card, you cannot go on air. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but all of this, I mean, is very important, and we're taking care of this, and we have been for a few years now.
But is this, I mean, this solution that you have developed with the tablet, is it replacing the traditional remote broadcasting applications like the OB vans, or, I mean, you have a lot of news vehicles and temporary production sites, or can it actually be sort of used in a combination?
It can, of course, be used in a combination. You scale it up to whatever you need. I think the biggest difference here is that before, even doing the most simple broadcast from outside, you needed to bring out all those equipment and all those OB vans and stuff like that. It's for the smallest production, it doesn't make sense because it carries a high cost. You probably need a technician to come along with you. Today, we don't really need that for the smaller ones. But if you want to make a bigger broadcast, of course, you need probably an engineer that's an audio engineer that does the mixing for you, and it will just make it better. But even for them, they don't have to bring out all of this equipment. They can still, bring in phone lines or other studios or, play out audio in top quality.
You could sort of use a traditional OB truck for music live production in combination with this tablet, and then the tablet is just taking care of the on-air control, maybe some patching for your audio signals, but the actual production is done on the traditional console, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in those cases, that's very valid, and I think by making this the easier broadcast more simple, it also takes some of the load off of our technicians and to focus on the bigger events or the bigger broadcasts and make those better. You get high quality output from very little effort.
But is the tools and the solutions available for everyone? Is it? I mean, does the journalists, do they have their own tablet, or is this belonging to sort of a station or a studio?
So and that's the thing. It's belonging to. We have the two stations in the south of Sweden, which are using the system fully. They have a couple of tablets which they can use and borrow from the station. Now, of course, during these times, those tablets are located at home for some of the journalists. But that's also what we're having in as a proof of concept now with an iPhone app, just to do in the controls, because if you're at home and you just have one microphone, you don't need that much more control, and it's basically just play and pause for some of the audio, the playout, and I'm
also really interested in knowing what has been the biggest challenge developing and deploying this solution within Swedish Radio.
It's not necessarily the development that's the hardest part, the technology itself, but dealing with people is a difficult task, and you need motivated leaders and people that have visions of what it's gonna be. It's hard to just transition to a network-based infrastructure. It's not about changing the cables. That doesn't matter. And if you're telling this to someone, they will go like, "Why can't we use MADI? It's perfect. It does the trick, right?" But it's not so much about that. And it's the same thing with the transition from just like 4G to 5G. It's not about the technology itself. It's about the ecosystem. It's about bringing data together and bringing control to a different level. And this is, I think, what we're trying to do now. And it takes time, but it's just a different mindset. And if you don't bring everyone on board, it's probably not going to be a success. The technology is there, so it's just about bringing people with you, because you need them all, right?
Okay, thank you, Roger, for giving us the story. Yeah,
thank you.
I'm already looking forward to knowing what's next from your development team, and discuss further on how Lawo can continue to support these innovative workflow methods. Yeah.
Sounds good. Me too.
Did you know how to use iterators in VSM? While creating multiple objects in a row like signals, GPIs, or GPOs, you can use iterators to save your time. These terminal symbols are used as iterators in VSM. Let's see some examples. Each iterator is enclosed in curly brackets. Inside the brackets, use iterator comma to separate the elements. In the preview area, you will see the preview of the first few signals you are about to create. The preview section will remain blank if there is any errors in the iteration. Iterator dash can be used to specify a range. Integer elements and character elements can be used together. To specify the width of an integer element, use colon followed by a width specification. In this example, we are using a width length of 3. Range step iterators, which use the $sign, can be used to specify the block size within the range. Iterators advance when all iterators to the right have been completed. In this example, since A to C is the first iteration from the right, it will process first. To prioritize an iteration, use the high priority iterator, the asterisk symbol, after the iteration. In this example, since iteration 1 to 3 is followed by the high priority iterator, it will proceed first before the iteration to its right. The counter iterator, symbolized by the caret, is an iterator that iterates parallel to the next iterator. You can use multiple iterators together to create signals in batch. Let's create these signals. Now you know how easy it is to use iterators to make multiple signals in VSM.
Hello, I'm Clark Novak, Marketing Specialist for Lawo's radio product line. And I'm here to tell you about some of the new features in the version 6.6 software release for the PowerCore Mixing and I/O platform. Features that'll benefit not only radio, but also TV production and audio infrastructure users. Now, you probably already know just how feature-packed PowerCore is, with Ravenna AES67 networking, a huge internal routing matrix, tons of DSP audio shaping, and hundreds of channels of audio I/O, all within just one rack unit of space. With this new software update, you'll find that PowerCore is even more flexible thanks to the new Edge license package. PowerCore Edge is an entry-level configuration designed specifically for deployment as a high-capacity audio gateway where mixing surface control is not required. It's perfect for NOC and TOC installations where plenty of audio ingest is needed, or for large-scale conversion of legacy baseband signals to AES67 networking. The Edge license supports 2 MADI interfaces with 128 audio channels and up to 64 Ravenna AES67 streams with a maximum channel count of 128. There's a 1280 by 1280 routing matrix and the ability to expand with up to 8 rear panel I/O cards. PowerCore Edge can be controlled with a Lawo VisTool user interface application, which supports as many as 128 patchable audio PPM and/or loudness meters on screen. It can also be controlled with KSC control panels and network protocols such as Ember Plus. If GPIO or loopback support is required, these are available as add-ons to the Edge license package. In this new age of increased remote operation and remote control via LAN and WAN, network security is more important than ever. So we've added several new security features to PowerCore 6.6 to help keep intruders out. You'll find an Ember Plus whitelist to allow only authorized devices, an IP filter to limit control data to specific interfaces, upgraded protection to ward off denial of service data flows on the network, and enhanced network traffic logging for inspection and debugging operations. Thanks for joining us for today's update. And now, back to my colleagues in the Lawo Lounge.
It's time to go on the road again to visit one of our customers and learn how our technology is deployed in real-world scenarios. TV No Tele was the first local TV station in Belgium to go IP, showing that the most modern technology is not just for the big boys. Adopting an IP audio infrastructure based on AES67 and controlled from Lawo's VSM control system, take a look at how IP technology enabled new flexibility at TV No Tele.
Notele's broadcast facility is located in Tournai, Belgium. We also have 2 offices in Moucron and Ath. We are a local TV station which focuses on local news, which is much appreciated by our viewers. We also produce features about regional events, political debates about issues of local interest, and a regular sports program. In addition, we cover local artists and cultural events.
Notele chose the IP because we thought it was a natural choice. Everybody needs to access everything from everywhere. For us, it was not so expensive to migrate to the IP world. We had to remove something about 2 tons of cable. You need good people which can help you to make the system working in a good condition. We started the project in June, and 2 months later it was working.
We did not test the system before going live because we had to dismantle the legacy wiring first and were quite simply unable to work in parallel. We installed the new IP equipment, which went smoothly. Any issues we encountered were swiftly resolved. I don't think anybody needs to be scared of IP. In Notele's case, I know that it will make it easy to scale our system by adding more devices as and when necessary. We also added the virtual studio manager system called VSM to our network. VSM is a very powerful system, and we are currently only scratching the surface. The convenience of the Lawo and Clearcom solutions we chose is that, unlike competition products, they are very easy to connect and configure, and that they require no bulky and expensive interfaces or gateways that would need to be configured as well. Our decision to select an open standard system allows us to work with any AES67 compliant solution. Additionally, our network is ready for future upgrades of our video equipment.
So about the intercom system, we wanted to have a simple system which could be interconnected with the Lawo system in an easy way. The Clearcom Eclipse Matrix was a good choice.
I must say that VSM is a tool we have grown very fond of. Users no longer need to patch signals manually. All you need to do is press a button to recall a whole bunch of settings for a variety of devices. Everything changes automatically. We chose the Lawo MC236 all-in-one production console for a number of reasons. The most important being the ease with which resources can be shared. IP not only helps us to save time and money, but also provides high stability and security. I think that over the coming 2 years, we will also migrate our video equipment to IP, albeit in a hybrid configuration.
At the moment, we are the first regional television to use IP for the audio system. But I think the others should do the jump into it because the financial part is not as high as they think. There is a lot of regional television that asked us to come and see what we did, and they were surprised.
Like many others, we initially thought that IP technology was only for major TV stations with a huge budget. After studying the market and the various options, however, we realized that this was a misconception. And thanks to Lawo's tight product integration and the convenience of having all-in-one, we have been able to make the jump.
If I have to explain IP to my grandmother, I will say you plug one box, the other one, the third, and the last should be the mixing console, and that's all.
We are nearly, unfortunately, at the end of our Lawo Lounge for this week. But before we go, competition time again in our 50 years quiz. This week, a question about our radio product line. What is the name of our super audio node which is used with our Ruby mixing console series? Is it A, UHD core, B, power core, or C, Apple core? Send your answer with your contact details to lounge@lawo.com for your chance to win some Lawo goodies. Good luck. So next week, we will be focusing on our media infrastructure solutions. So join us again next week, same time, same place, at the Lawo Lounge. In the meantime, please take care, stay healthy, and stay connected. Goodbye.